Hello, my name's Christine Calvaresi,
And my name is Brett Estes.
and today we are talking about effective communication inside and outside the classroom.
So you might be wondering, what is effective communication?
Communication is effectively sending or receiving information while positively conveying and sharing ideas.
Now you might be wondering who we will be communicating with. You will be communicating with colleagues, with parents, with friends, but most importantly, students within your very own classroom.
One of the negative ways of communicating is belittling. Don't talk down to your students. You should be encouraging your students and praising their work instead.
With that, eye contact is very important. Too much or too little could hinder communication and offset the student. Sarcasm.
You don't want to be too sarcastic with your kids because, again, you don't want to seem like you're belittling them. Your facial expressions are going to be one of the things that set the mood for the classroom. So make sure that they're upbeat, happy expressions and not downers.
When it comes to your posture in the classroom, you want to make sure that you're not presenting yourself as the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Instead, represent yourself in a professional manner.
Also with your posture, try and use more open postures. Don't cross your arms too much. You want to be inviting to your students. You don't want to scare them off.
Now, speaking of positive communication, let's view the picture here. As we can see, we have tons of people right here with open body language, positive facial expressions, openness, and you might wonder the guy on the far right, while he's in a closed position, he's still communicating in a positive way. It's more of a thoughtful stance, if we can think of that. All of these great examples of body posture, facial expression, and openness that which we should use to model our own sense of body posture, openness, and communication.
In this picture, you can see that the woman is yelling at the guy. But as a teacher, you don't want to yell at your students. You want to project your voice so they can hear it across the classroom. So there is a difference between yelling and projection, and we need to make sure we don't cross that line.
With that, we should understand that the use of profanity should not be used within the classroom. Understandably, that it might have its comical uses in certain situations with mature adults. These are still our students. It's not just that how we communicate, it's also how our students communicate towards one another. If they're allowed to use profanity within our classroom, then we might as well see a breakdown in the communication within our classroom.
When you're talking to your students, make sure your diction is not incoherent. You need to enunciate your words, so that way there is no miscommunication at all.
And now we're going to view a short video clip on an example of classical miscommunication.
Das Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
And as we can see from the video, language barriers can sometimes take form of a major miscommunication, and to ignore any of the factors we've talked about thus far, or will continue to talk about in this video, will literally be putting your own foot in your mouth, as seen in the picture here.
In your classroom, you need to ask your students some effective questions, and you need to engage them in these questions also. To do this, you need to ask convergent and divergent questions. When you ask a convergent question, you are looking for one answer. But when you're asking a divergent question, you're looking for multiple answers. To do this, you'll be asking your students who, what, when, where, why, and how. When asking why or how, you're asking a probing question. Those questions are follow-up questions, which indicates deeper thought for your students.
And while they may be probing questions, we should also take note that we should not be forcing our students to answer questions, rather to incite imagination and learning. Now, a large part in communication is giving clear directions and procedures. The idea is to give clear, detailed instructions that don't leave any parts of the instructions vague, as well as using words and language and diction that they will understand. And sometimes your instructions won't be clear enough, and as you can see in the next picture, you'll see what typically happens.
Here's a humorous example of unclear instructions.
911, what is your emergency, please?
Yes, please help us. I think he's dead. What do I do?
Sir, calm down. I can help you. We'll walk through this together. First, I need you to make sure he's dead.
Well, I can do that. Hold on a second.
Now that we've learned the importance of right communication, it is more important to realize that we should also use outside communication. And there are many different ways. In fact, here are 10 levels of intimacy in today's communication that we can use outside our classroom with our students. Now, it's important to remember that you can be different. Not all teachers are going to use the same social media sites to communicate with their students. In fact, when it comes to using social media sites, it's more like a Rubik's Cube and trying to figure out which one you should use for the best effectiveness. But once you figure out the appropriate method of which to communicate with your students, you'll find that you're speaking the same language. And sometimes speaking the same technological language as your student, you'll find that you can get the message better across through multiple media.
One of the better ways to get a hold of your teacher is through email. Students can email their teachers and ask questions, and also teachers can email their students to give them extra information that they forgot to say in class. When you're online or emailing a teacher or student, you need to use your proper email etiquette. Be respectful. Use the same language that you would use as if you're talking to them in person. With your personal website, you can post up different websites, videos, so that way you can help guide your students with their work when they're not at school.
Also, with website URLs that you can manage for your classroom, it should be noted that supplemental material can be provided so that students who need extra help or extra material and assignments can now access it through the internet, which most students have. If not, you can provide additional resources in a hard copy form.
A big part about communicating inside and outside the classroom is giving back quick responses. Quick feedback is important because it allows your students to know what you're thinking and what you expect from them.
But the point we wish to drive home is that there are many applications you can use outside of the classroom, tons of apps, tons of social media sites of which you will never be able to fully grasp all their uses. However, it's better to gauge which ones will be used by the students, which ones are more compartmentalized, which ones are they more likely to use within their very own life. And as you see, if you find those apps, those social media sites, you'll be able to make these connections to each and every student. The more connections you have to them in and outside of the classroom, mostly outside, the better they will be able to learn.
Communicating with your students is important because it creates a safe and positive learning environment.
Not only does this have application within the classroom, it also has application outside the classroom and in your everyday life, in every second of your life. Well, it's been fun. My name is Brett Estes,
And Christine Calvaresi.
and today we covered effective communication in and outside of the classroom. Hope you learned a little bit. Have fun, y'all.